chat. Next video, we are going to look at the history of of a show. I believe this was 90s. Some of you have already guessed this, but we are going to be looking at Seaquest DSV, or Deep Sea Voyage. Yeah, we're going to be looking at the history of Seaquest. I have seen a couple of episodes of these, and I always thought that they were kind of neat. The few that I've had the opportunity to see had some great actors. Yeah, Jonathan Brandis. I mean, I think this was his jump off point in his sadly limited run in Hollywood. This was kind of his jump off point. And of course, leave us not forget, it had the OG of Taming the Sea. Roy Scheider. You know, he tackled Jaws, and then he said, fuck it, I'm gonna go hit him where it hurts, and went, on a high-tech sub. So, it was a cool show. Angel, you're gonna find out about it. I don't want to describe it too much, because for those of you who haven't seen it, this might encourage you to, maybe want to watch it. So, let's check it out.
What happens when ambition collides with interference? When groundbreaking ideas sink under their own weight? And when a talking dolphin outshines its human co-stars? This is the story of Seaquest DSV, a show that promised to revolutionize science fiction television, but instead became a cautionary tale.
The 21st century, mankind has colonized the last unexplored region on Earth, the ocean. As captain of the Seaquest and its crew, we are its guardians.
The early 1990s was a fertile ground for genre television. Star Trek: The Next Generation dominated the airwaves, proving that audiences craved intelligent, character-driven science fiction. Studios took note, eager to replicate the success. But instead of looking to the stars, one team turned their gaze inward, to the uncharted depths of Earth's oceans.
Which is, honestly, really smart. That instead of doing another space adventure, they instead went below. Because don't forget, I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of the world's oceans are unexplored. Yeah, the ocean is basically, it's the perfect allegory for space travel, but it's right here on Earth. So, honestly, it was a really, really fucking clever way to do a quote-unquote space adventure show without the space and do a twist. Because, think about it, with the marine life, that's something that we can relate to. So it was like, the idea on its face was really smart. And, I mean, it had a couple seasons. It had a pretty decent run, I think.
Seaquest was the brainchild of Rockne S.
Oh, fuck! I didn't realize Ted Raimi was in it. He was fucking in everything around this, during this time, wasn't he? Ted Raimi, director Sam Raimi's brother. Ted Raimi was in, fucking everything in the 90s. He was... Basically, if you needed a co-star, big character actor, Ted Raimi was your guy. He was in Hercules, he was in Xena, he did bit characters in all sorts of movies. He was a side character in Seaquest. All throughout the 90s. He was great at doing this, at being just a fun little side character that people remembered. It was great.
Of Rockne S. O'Bannon, a writer who had made waves with projects like Alien Nation. O'Bannon envisioned a near-future world where humanity had colonized the oceans, using advanced submarines to explore Earth's final frontier. This wasn't just science fiction, it was speculative fiction based on what might actually be possible. Steven Spielberg, fresh off Jurassic Park, was looking to expand into television. When Seaquest came across his desk, he was captivated by the idea of exploring the oceans with the same one.
Was Steven Spielberg a part of Seaquest? Was this was this something he produced? I don't think I ever knew that, if that's true.
Wonder and detail he had brought to dinosaurs. With Spielberg attached as executive producer, Universal Television spared no expense. Early interviews described it as one of the most ambitious shows ever produced, with budgets rivaling feature films. The titular Seaquest was a marvel of
Wait, I know him from somewhere. Fuck, I know. What do I know him from? Not Roy Scheider. I know Roy Scheider. This guy, what do I know him from? Shit. Yeah, spare no expense. I know, I caught that too. What do I know this guy from, chat? Fuck. I know I've seen him in other stuff. Damn, I can't think of what it is. This gentleman right here. He would have been like the first officer, I believe. I can't remember the character's name. I think it might be Jay Ford. I need to see. I need to look this up. I know that face, and I cannot place it. Don Franklin. Okay, what do I know him from? What do I know him from? Maybe. Maybe I saw him in one of these. He looked so familiar. It's like I know that face. Huh. I can't remember what I saw him in before.
The titular Seaquest was a marvel of design. Initially conceptualized as a floating fortress, the design team pivoted toward an organic aesthetic, something that would look as at home in the ocean as the creatures it studied. Dubbed Nautical Nouveau, the sleek submarine was a feat of engineering both in-universe and behind the scenes. Its underwater world was—
Was he in The Mentalist? The guy that I was thinking, the guy that I was talking about, was he in The Mentalist? Was he one of the lead characters in The Mentalist? He wasn't. Yeah, I'm wondering if he was in NCIS Los Angeles, and maybe I saw him on an episode of NCIS Los Angeles. That could be. Asher, you could be right. It could be a lot of one-off roles, and it's just he just has a face that I recognize. He was in Bones too. Okay, so yeah, so he's probably been in a one-off. He's probably been a one-off in one of the shows that I've seen before, and he has a recognizable face, and that's why I just recognized it.
Was brought to life with cutting-edge CGI, one of the first TV series to rely entirely on digital effects for its aquatic visuals. The visual effects team created a convincing underwater environment on a weekly TV schedule, pushing the boundaries of what television could achieve at the time. To anchor the show, Spielberg wanted a seasoned lead, and Roy Scheider, already synonymous with the ocean thanks to Jaws, was brought on as Captain Nathan Bridger.
And from my memory, he was great in this show. Roy Scheider was fantastic as the captain. He played the role fantastically. You flat out bought that he was in command, even though he was very, obviously his manner of dress was very casual. He wasn't wearing a uniform. I loved that he was great in this. And what they were talking about earlier with the look of the Seaquest itself, the Seaquest itself always kind of reminded me of like a squid. The way they designed it, because especially on the back end where it had those tails coming off of it, I always thought that the Seaquest, obviously they said that was the idea, that it looked like aquatic life, But that's the aquatic life it always made me think of, is that it looked like a squid. Because when it was in motion, I'm pretty sure the tails rotated. Either rotated or they rippled or something. And like I always got the feeling like anytime they showed an exterior shot, I'm like, it's so cool, it looks like a squid.
Bridger was conceived as a brilliant, reluctant leader mourning the loss of his son, adding gravitas to the narrative. Other cast members included Jonathan Brandis as Lucas Wolenchak, a computer prodigy who brought youthful energy to the series, and Stephanie Beacham as Dr. Kristen Westphalen, a scientist whose character reflected Spielberg's desire to promote environmental themes. Supporting characters like Don Franklin's Commander Ford and Ted Raimi's Lieutenant O'Neill rounded out the diverse crew. But perhaps the most unusual addition was Darwin, the talking dolphin. Using advanced technology, Darwin communicated with the crew through a translator, showcasing the show's commitment to exploring speculative marine science.
From Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment Inc. and Universal Television comes a journey into the future and the
This was such a cool show.
Stars in Seaquest DSV.
As the first season aired, the cracks in Seaquest's hull became evident. Spielberg envisioned a family-friendly educational adventure akin to Star Trek, a show that could entertain while inspiring curiosity about marine science.
I mean, that's what I always thought, is that Seaquest was basically a new kind of Star Trek. A new kind of Star Trek that worked really fucking well. Like, this was a, like, honestly, it was fucking, it was. Like, this, without question, this is Star Trek in the ocean. And it worked really fucking well. Like, now, here's the sequence right here. Tell me this doesn't look like a squid. Yeah. It absolutely, and I can't remember if the tails here, like, rotated or if they just rippled when the vessel was in motion. I can't recall which, but yeah, it looks like a squid. But yeah, I mean, it is Star Trek in the ocean. And it works really fucking well. Because don't forget, this was also a time, well, Atanashi, I think we're gonna find out because he was just saying, like, the cracks in Seaquest's hull started to show where they were starting to have issues. I'm not sure because I don't remember Seaquest becoming like a quote-unquote cautionary tale. I did not, like, I've only seen several of the episodes. I have not seen the entire series. So, like, I do remember that Roy Schneider left the show. I can't remember after what season, and Michael Ironside did come in and took over. But I'm not sure why this has become a cautionary tale. And I'm wondering if they're talking about a cautionary tale for making a show, or if it's a cautionary tale for the planet, like the direction that the planet could go. I don't know which way we're going to be looking at this.
It's an environmentalism, but NBC had other ideas. Ratings pressure led executives to demand more action and drama, resulting in conflicting tones and an uneven narrative. Episodes like Games, which featured intelligent psychological battles, stood in stark contrast to the more outlandish plots involving treasure hunts and glowing underwater gems. Critics and audiences were confused. Was this a serious sci-fi drama or a pulp adventure series? The answer seemed to change weekly. Behind the scenes, the show's massive budget became a point of contention. Filming on the
second season was a mess. The whole vibe changed. The show went from Star Trek smart sci-fi to shooty bang bang military. Yeah, all thanks to goddamn studio interference. Yes. Wait. Deadly Mouse, are you sure you're not thinking Stargate? No, I'm sorry. No, you're right. You are 100% right. Yes, Mark Hamill did play an alien in Seaquest. You're right. I vaguely remember the episode. It was a small part. He wasn't in it very much, but yeah, I vaguely remember him having a small part as like a cameo or a guest spot. Yeah, he did like a guest spot as an alien in towards like the latter half of Seaquest, the latter half of the series. He showed up like briefly, very briefly. Well, it's a question of how heavily involved was Spielberg. Because the thing with like producer credits is he could have just had an executive producer credit because his studio was the one, Amblin Entertainment was the one running the show. But it was NBC's network. And like everything, studio interference sucks. At this point, Spielberg was more of a name on the door than actually being day-to-day involved. Exactly, yeah. That's the thing. Like, the whole concept of executive producer doesn't mean necessarily that someone is involved. There are plenty of people who have some exterior contribution of some kind. In this case, Spielberg getting the show greenlit, having his studio being the one working on it, Amblin Studio. That very much probably gave him the quote-unquote producer credit. I'm not even sure he put money into it. I think it was more influence. He probably got the TV studio or the TV network to take on the program or take on the show, use of his studio, and that might have been the limit of it. And then he was off doing his other things. Because probably around this time, he was probably working on Jurassic Park when Seaquest was airing. I'm pretty sure he was working on Jurassic Park. So he was highly unlikely that he was involved in Seaquest in any way other than getting it started and using and allowing his studio to participate.
Water was notoriously expensive, and the reliance on CGI further strained resources.
Did they say?
Facing declining
I
ratings,
missed that.
NBC demand.
I missed that they said Jurassic Park came off before it. Okay. Wait. Hang on. Remember. Okay, we're just straight 4 minutes. Hang on.
Steven Spielberg, fresh off Jurassic Park, was looking to expand into television.
Oh, fresh off Jurassic Park. You're right. He was fresh off Jurassic Park. So, I don't know. What else did he wear? Did he have anything cooking? Because he didn't do Jurassic Park 2, did he? He did Jurassic Park 1, but I don't think he really had... Was he working on Schindler's List at that point? When did Schindler's List come out? He could have been. Like, this is back in the early 90s is when Spielberg was rolling on projects. He was jumping from project to project to project in the 90s. Jurassic Park, Schindler's, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs. That's just to name a small handful. He did do Jurassic Park 2. Okay, so he's probably working on Jurassic Park 2. He had a lot of fucking projects. E.T. was long before Hackle. E.T. was 80s, I think. Schindler's List came out in 93? Okay. Yeah, so he was doing a lot. So he probably had very little to do with this show other than getting it off the ground.
Massive budget became a point of contention. Filming on the water was notoriously expensive, and the reliance on CGI further strained resources. Facing declining ratings, NBC demanded changes for the second season. The show's original premise was abandoned in favor of more sensational sci-fi heavy storylines. Peter DeLuise's Dagwood, a genetically engineered superhuman, exemplified this shift, offering a mix of comic relief and social commentary. While the new direction attracted some viewers, it alienated the original fan base. Seaquest had lost its identity, becoming a patchwork of competing ideas. The production was eventually moved from Los Angeles to Orlando, Florida in a bid to cut costs. This decision disrupted the lives of the cast and crew and led to the departure of key figures like Stephanie Beacham. Florida's facilities also lacked the infrastructure of Hollywood, leading to noticeable declines in production quality.
Oh yeah, look at Look at this shot
Facilities also lacked the infrastructure of Hollywood,
to this shot. This shot looks notably cheaper. Compared to what we were seeing with the opening ones, this set does kind of look noticeably cheaper, it seems. Yeah. Definitely cutting costs.
leading to noticeable declines in production quality. The relocation to Florida wasn't just
no, Zeb, it wouldn't be. If they had to move the entire production to Florida, they would have probably had to rebuild all the sets again. So it would not have been they would have had to probably rebuild everything from scratch. It's not like they couldn't be moving it. It would have had all been rebuilt. And obviously, if their budgets got slashed, they had to rebuild it with cheaper materials. And thus the quality showed.
leading to noticeable declines in production quality. The relocation to Florida wasn't just a logistical challenge, it created friction among the cast. Newcomers like Michael DeLuise and Edward Kerr struggled to find their footing, while Jonathan Brandis faced the pressure of being a teen idol.
A being of pure evil.
I'll watch all of you as you die.
A battle of science against the supernatural.
I've got it. It's too late!
What?
New Seaquest NBC tonight.
Spielberg increasingly
What? Did they really go that route? Oh, God. See, that's when you know a show is on the way out. When you take a sci-fi show that is about aquatics, that is about aquatic science, and you start just throwing supernatural shit in like that, you're done. Jack, the route of you have a sci-fi show and you basically turn it into supernatural. That is the sign that your show is on a very steep decline. It's not good.
Spielberg, increasingly preoccupied with other projects, began to disengage, leaving the production team to fend for themselves. Scheider, initially excited by the project, quickly grew disillusioned. He had signed on for a grounded, thought-provoking series about—
By the way, this is one thing that I thought was really fucking cool. This was their communication system. That the way they're instead of having like a screen, they basically had like a spout or something dropping like fog or mist downwards, and the image was projected into it. It's entirely impractical compared to just using a screen, but it looked really fucking cool to do this. It was like, it was the whole aesthetic. It was like, okay, it's like they were projecting the image onto water, which felt like really, really fun. Again, highly impractical. A screen would have made a hell of a lot more sense. Even a hologram would have been better. But this was fun. This was a fun little gimmick for the show when it came to like communications. I really liked it.
For a grounded, thought-provoking series about science and exploration, but as the scripts veered into what he called childish trash, his enthusiasm waned. By the end of the first season, he was openly critical of the show in interviews, calling out the network for its interference. By the third season, Seaquest had become a shadow of its original vision. Struggling to attract and retain viewers, the series attempted a dramatic tonal shift. With Roy Scheider pushing for his release, the series introduced a new lead, a revamped timeline, and a grittier tone. The question remained, could a darker, edgier approach salvage the show? The timeline was fast-forwarded by 10 years, thrusting the crew of the Seaquest into a more militarized and dystopian
Oh, I don't remember
future.
this.
Michael Ironside replaced Roy Scheider as Captain Oliver Hudson, a pragmatic, no-nonsense leader.
Wait, was that? Fuck, what's your name? God. Is this what's her name from Firefly? I can't think of her name. Or is it? That may not be. No. No, it's it's the light. Yeah, I thought it might have been Gina Torres, but I'm wrong. She's older than Gina Torres back during this time, so I'm wrong.
Leader. Ironside's intensity was a stark contrast to Scheider's reluctant paternal Bridger, signaling the show's pivot to a harsher, more survival-focused narrative. However, the drastic overhaul alienated many viewers who had stuck with the show despite its Season 2 sci-fi excesses. The hopeful, exploratory ethos of the first season was gone, replaced by a bleak, militarized aesthetic that felt jarringly out of place for fans seeking the wonder of underwater discovery. Episodes in Season 3 leaned heavily into dystopian narratives and action. While the writers sought to inject urgency into the show, many storylines felt like they belonged to a completely different series. The once celebrated submarine became a setting for increasingly disconnected plots, where
That's... Okay, that is such a fucking mistake. Seaquest got alien abducted and came back years later because of time dilation. Okay. And I think that was the Mark Hamill introduction. I'm pretty sure Mark Hamill's character was the alien that basically abducted the Seaquest. And then when and that was like maybe the conclusion of Season 3. And then Season 4, the Seaquest returned, and they decided to use it as a weapon. Yeah, I think that may be about right. But this was such a bad idea. This was a terrible fucking idea. When you have a show that is starting off as sea exploration, which was a great fucking idea, by the way. Having this show being about sea exploration was fantastic. And then they changed it to a war show. You're loose. Yeah, now we know why it's cautionary, is because the studio decided to step in and say, hey, people like action now. Let's do action. And they decided to fuck it all up and basically do a complete fucking 180 on this show. And so it became something else entirely 3 seasons in. And everyone that had been tuning into the show because they wanted to have the sea exploration are now going, what the fuck is this bullshit? I didn't tune in for a war show. There's a reason why Star Trek endured for so many fucking seasons, both 1 and 2. Because while Star Trek did have combat, it was first and foremost a show about exploration, peace, and diplomacy. The studio heads forgot about that part when they said, let's make the combat show. And we see that it cost them.
battles with rogue factions replaced scientific curiosity. For example, Brave New World, the 3rd season opener, depicted Seaquest as a weapon of war rather than an instrument of peace. Episodes were littered with explosions, militaristic jargon, and personal vendettas, sidelining any semblance of the scientific ethos that had initially defined the show. Audiences were left wondering, where was the underwater exploration? Where were the moral dilemmas rooted in humanity's relationship with the ocean? The Florida production location exacerbated tensions among cast and crew, and Michael Ironside himself expressed frustration with the chaotic writing process. Jonathan Brandis, the once beloved teen idol who played Lucas Walenchak, found his character sidelined by the grittier tone. This loss of focus on Lucas, a relatable point of entry for younger viewers, was another nail in the show's coffin. Brandis later reflected on the immense pressure of being a breakout star on a struggling series.
By the way, I don't know the actor, but who recognizes this guy? He was a main cast member on Seaquest, but who recognizes this guy? I have no idea what the actor's name is, but I know what I've seen him from. There's one specific movie that I remember him from. Anybody guess? Billy? Billy who? No. And I'm hoping I'm right about this. I'm reasonably sure he is the bully boyfriend of the love interest in Encino Man. No. No, he's not Alan. He's not Alex Winters. No, this is not Alex Winters. No, I believe he was the boyfriend of the love interest in Encino Man. You know, the girl that the main character was going after, she already had a boyfriend, and he was the boyfriend. He's the one that punched Brendan Fraser at the hockey rink. That's how I know him. And okay, it's Michael DeLuise. I had no idea who the actor was, but that face is like he has a recognizable face in that respect.
Brandis later reflected on the immense pressure of being a breakout star on a struggling series, a burden that haunted him even after the show's cancellation. Despite these changes, ratings continued to plummet.
Wait, what they just say about that? Hang on.
The immense pressure of being a breakout star on a struggling series, a burden that haunted him even after the show's cancellation. Despite
that must be alluding to what we think it's alluding to. So Seaquest may have been a big part of what caused Jonathan Brandis to self-delete. Jonathan Brandis self-deleted in his 20s. And it's a shame because he was a great actor. But it sounds like Seaquest might have had a pretty heavy hand in that psychological pressure that resulted in his self-deletion. Yeah. Yeah.
Despite these changes, ratings continued to plummet. Seaquest 2032 aired just 13 episodes before NBC pulled the plug. Its abrupt cancellation left numerous plot threads unresolved, frustrating the dwindling fan base. For all its ambition, Seaquest had ended not with a bang, but a fizzle. The failure of Seaquest DSV wasn't due to a lack of ambition, it was due to a lack of cohesion. At its heart, the series was torn between competing visions.
Okay, no, we gotta call this like it is. The failure was due to, once again, the fucking studio interfering. If the network had kept their ass out of it, Seaquest probably would have gone fine. But the moment the moment the network execs stuck their ass into it, that's when it all changed, and that's when it all started going to shit and just went off a fucking cliff. This is why many projects fail. You can draw a through line for projects that start off good and then go off a cliff, specifically because the network says we have to make it this way because this is trending, or the kids like this, don't they? So we've got to do this. If network, honestly, I never understood why these network execs are so against making money. It's so funny. It's like greed is ruining these things, but it's like, if you were greedy, you would have left it the fuck alone because it was making money. That is the crazy part of this. That is why this is so stupidly ass backwards. Something is making shit tons of money. Cool. Let's change it. Because
network executives need to learn to leave shows alone and let the writers do their thing.
Yeah. Well, they used to. Now there's no good writers anymore, so now it's just everybody's just fucked. But yeah, it's like it's so crazy that they are so absolutely ass backwards. Or they were back in like the 90s, where it's like things are going well. People are loving the show. It's the #1 or in the top 5 spot of popular shows. And that network comes in and goes, you guys are doing fantastic. Now we're going to change the whole fucking show around. And it's like, oh, what? And what happens when they change the whole show around? The entire fucking thing goes downhill. One perfect example I can come up with is How I Met Your Mother. I've seen, like, I've watched, like, How I Met Your Mother. The first, like, probably 2 seasons were good. And then the moment they did a tonal shift where they started getting wackier and more outrageous is when it stopped becoming enjoyable. When the studios change things up, where a show diverts from its original path in terms of tone or story, you can actually pinpoint that, yeah, but Revan, it was outrageous, but they started going over the top with it after, I think, like season 2. If I remember correctly. Same thing with Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory was enjoyable, was good for about the first 3, maybe 4 seasons. And then they just started getting, like, they started removing the geekiness to it. And that's when it started going down. That's when I stopped enjoying it, is when they started removing the geekiness from it, where, you know, where they were not only geeks, but they were also scientists, and you got to see both. When they started taking that away, like, especially the science part, it stopped becoming enjoyable for me. And yeah, Laruk, I know, How I Met Your Mother is more like How Many Women I Fucked Before I Met Your Mother. Which, again, the ending for that show was so disappointing, because we as the audience got to see the mother for a grand total of 10 fucking minutes. And yeah, Kaylee Kuko was a babe dragon, and they started toning down her babeness after about season 4. Huh? Oh yeah, Rev, that's what I mean. Yeah, we got to see the mother for a grand total of maybe 10 minutes, and then she died. And it was just like, yeah, I can't think of anybody that liked the end of How I Met Your Mother. Anyway, way off track as usual. So let's finish this one out.
Was it a hard science drama, a family-friendly adventure, a pulpy action series? The inability to settle on a consistent tone or target audience created a fragmented narrative that alienated viewers. Network interference compounded these issues. NBC's relentless pursuit of ratings undermined the show's creative foundation, leading to bizarre story arcs and constant reinvention. For all its flaws, Seaquest remains a fascinating case study in television history. It dared to dream big, to tackle themes of environmentalism and scientific exploration on a scale rarely seen on TV. And while it ultimately failed, its ambition has cemented its place in the pantheon of cult classics. In the years since its cancellation, Seaquest has found new life among devoted fans. DVD releases and streaming platforms have introduced the show to fresh audiences who appreciate its ambition even as they acknowledge its missteps. Discussions on forums and social media often revolve around what the show could have been and if it should be remade. For all its flaws, Seaquest dared to imagine a world where humanity worked together to explore the unknown, to push boundaries, and to dream big. And in doing so, it left an indelible mark on the history of science fiction. It was a series that sought to chart new waters, but found itself lost in the tides of network demands and creative discord. Yet its legacy endures, a reminder of television's potential to inspire, to innovate, and sometimes to fail spectacularly.
C-Lab is good, though.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, like, Seaquest could have been so fucking good. it could have been, like, that's the heartbreaking part of it, is you can see the great potential for Seaquest. You can, excuse me, you can literally feel the potential for Seaquest being a great fucking show from the way it started. And that's kind of what makes it all that more heartbreaking, is that it could have been so great and it went downhill because of studio interference. We all of our greats, all of our great shows, we can ascribe to their failures because of studio interference.